You're listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast with Prep Baseball Wisconsin, breaking down the top high school prospects and featuring all things college baseball recruiting in a changing world. Hosted by Vinny Rotino, Josh Fields, and Andy Sroka, this is Badger State Ball.
Hey, welcome in everybody to the Badger State Podcast. This is Vinny Rotino. I'm here with a special guest today, Marty Pitts. We don't have the rest of the crew with us this week, but it's just going to be Marty and I, a little one-on-one. Marty Pitts is the Dominican Summer League manager for one of the teams down in the Dominican Republic for the Texas Rangers. And he's going to describe, and he's also involved in the hitting side of things with them. But Marty, really appreciate you coming on to the podcast today on the Badger State Podcast. We're going to get into your background and everything, but really appreciate you coming on today.
Vinny, I cannot think of a better way to start the day than talking baseball with you. So I am ecstatic that you have invited me on, and I'm ready to talk some baseball.
Awesome. Oh, what a compliment coming from you, Marty. But get into a little bit, into your background a little bit. So you are from Wisconsin, kind of go through everything from A to B and how you got to the position that you are in today and on your way to becoming a big league manager, in my opinion.
I am born and raised in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Boyhood idol as a player was no other than Vinny Rotino.
Oh, wow.
Picture in my room and everything.
That's awesome.
I'm currently with the Texas Rangers right now. I'm the DSL manager, and I also coach hitters, working with hitters. My first coaching stop, I was a high school coach at Indian Trail High School, and then got into college baseball with UW Parkside, and also coached in the Northwoods League with the Kenosha Kingfish. So after the summer with the Kingfish, I've always wanted to pursue coaching professionally, and I was fortunate to get an opportunity in the Dominican with the Rangers. So now I'm entering my third year with the Rangers down the Dominican.
What a story. I mean, it's just kind of an unorthodox path, right, to coaching in professional baseball. But you see that nowadays with a lot of impactful coaches. Doesn't matter their backgrounds. It doesn't matter if they played 10 years in the big leagues. Doesn't matter if they played one day of professional baseball whatsoever. It's can you help players? And that's what I love so much about the game right now, especially among coaches that can really connect with players. Would you say that is something that you've had to, kind of just knowing you, I know that's kind of probably has come easily for you, but kind of describe what it was like, first day on the job down in the Dominican Republic, professional baseball. Like I said, I mean, you were coaching for the Kingfish, and then a lot of people nowadays in baseball do have that kind of unorthodox path. But was that difficult your first year? I know you've settled in since then, but describe a little bit what that was like.
Well, I was extremely lucky because when I got down there, for the last 3 years, I've worked every day side by side with Wilton Veras, who is a former big leaguer, born and raised in the Dominican. Eugene Kinsale is another hitting coach that I've spent a lot of time with day to day down there. And we've also been really lucky with just rock solid groups of players that are just passionate. They love the game. And, I think the biggest thing that players want to see is just love, passion, and care for themselves on and off the field. So I think my mentality has always been in baseball, you just love every day. You give it your best on the field, and when your group is centered that way, and you're all about passion and love and doing your best, and good things happen. So we've been extremely fortunate the last couple of years to have rock solid groups of players and also just support staff down there. My Spanish, I'm learning that, so I went down there with very little Spanish, and the Rangers have us taking classes, so the last 2 years I've been taking classes to learn my Spanish. But the players, what's worked the last 2 years is just showing effort that you're learning it, and it's coming, it's progressing. I definitely am setting a goal after the end of this year to be conversational in it. But those are, it's just love and passion. That's really what's led to a lot of good things the last couple of years.
Yeah, so, that I love that you're saying that because it comes off as authentic, right? And so I think when players, and kind of drawing on my own experience as a player, and again, this conversation, we're hoping all these podcasts that we're doing, but we're hoping that it can kind of strike a chord with some coaches and some players and some parents around the state. And I know that that's our audience here for the Badger State podcast. But the idea of, if you authentically care about the players, if you're a coach and or a manager or a high school head coach or an assistant or a pitching coach, whatever the case may be, or a program head coach, that if you authentically care about the players and helping them get better every single day, and you love to come to the park and you bring great energy, I mean, that communicates to the player that this guy is in it for me. I trust this guy. And maybe you guys can kind of work off of each other and figure out ways in different ways. And we're probably going to get into that here and into the weeds a little bit, but you guys can figure out ways as to how to get players better. And they just get better faster, I think, if they have that great coaching staff and those guys and those coaches that really care about their careers, in their corner. So would you say that that's the case so far for you and for the rest of the coaching staff? It sounds. And before you answer that question, Wilton Veras, my first year playing professional baseball, I was scared out of my mind. I got invited to spring training. I thought I was going to get released a couple of weeks after I signed. And Wilton Veras was in AAA, and I was like, oh, man, this guy can hit. I'm watching him take batting practice. Anyway, that's funny that you say the name Wilton Veras because I remember him from 2003, my first spring training. He was in AAA. He actually he had an opportunity to make the big league team and then got sent down to AAA for the remainder of the season. But anyway, that's just kind of a blast from the past for me and how kind of the dots connect. So we could talk about that offline, Marty, but kind of answer that question about the authenticity of how it comes across about what you described, the love for the game and then the care for the player. And then do you find that because of that, players get better quicker?
Yeah, I think in baseball, the priority is, you have to have self-identity. And with self-identity becomes confidence. So all players are different, all coaches are different. And if you are from the playing side, if you're trying to, play a specific style that is not really tailored to your skill set, then it's going to struggle. If you're a coach that, is not yourself and leaning into your strengths and, naive to what your maybe weaknesses are, it's going to be a lot more challenging. So having self-identity, the biggest thing that coaches can do is instill confidence in the players. That's ultimately your goal because baseball is the hardest game in the world. And if a player is not comfortable, if they're not confident, then you got a lot of work to do. So breeding confidence and creating a comfortable practice environment and that's challenging, but also seeking out care for the players. I mean, that's a priority in everything that we're doing with our players.
No, that's awesome. Maybe educate us a little bit on who is down there in the Dominican Summer League, what countries they're from, what age groups they're in. I know that as a former scout of the Texas Rangers that we were scouting down there. I mean, players as young as 13. I think they're going down to age 12 even and taking a look at players, but they're not able to sign officially until they're 16. But I actually need to be educated a little bit on this as well. So, but at age 14, are they able to practice with you guys? Are they officially members of the complex, Dominican Summer League complex? Kind of go through that and the details of that, because again, I think it can resonate what you're doing, and kind of people in the state and the audience that we're catering to here can kind of resonate with the players and maybe pick up some things on, because of the fact that you guys are working with basically 14 to 18-year-olds. That's essentially the demographic of the Wisconsin high school player.
Yeah, the international path is a lot different than stateside guys because, like you said, they sign when they're 16 years old. So they're scouted very early. They're going off away from their homes at 10 years old that train with a Buscone or a trainer, and their goal is to get a contract, which you can commit to a team as early as 12, 13 years old. But our season with the DSL players, it's majority of them are playing their first professional season at 17. They sign at 16. But we have players from all over. We have kids from Korea, Curacao, Venezuela, all international players. So I love that level. I've loved every single day of it because a lot of them, it's their first season. All these kids are wide-eyed with big goals, big dreams because they want to be big leaguers, but they're also, chasing a contract that's going to, help a lot of people around them. So that alone is motivation every day to get up, and you want to give these players your best every day. But the commitment process, how that works is when they agree to a specific contract with a team, you're allowed specific days that you can train and be around the academy. I don't know the specific number of days that is, but we do have days when the commits, kids that are younger than 16 years old, come in and they'll join our practice and they'll have inter squads, and everything is tailored to developing them into big leaguers.
That's awesome. And so at any given time, how many players are at the complex that you're working with? I guess maybe you guys are staggering when those younger than 16-year-old players are there, those commitments that you're talking about, those verbal commits. But yeah, how many players any given day are you guys working with?
Most days, when we get to the season, we'll have a red and a blue team, two teams. But between pitchers and position players, we'll be at around 60 to 70 players. So It sounds like a lot, but we do have a great support staff of, pitching coaches, hitting coaches, dev coaches, strength coaches, and then it's unique because those guys, while they're at the complex, they're taking classes too at night. They're taking English classes. So we have around 60 to 70 players. Their day is always starts on the field. In the mornings, they'll go through baseball-specific activities, lift, and then at the end of the day, they'll have classes, English classes.
English classes, okay. Are they also taking classes, other classes besides English, or is it just strictly to learn the language?
Primarily life skills and relating to English, because obviously a lot of those guys, there's kids, some that are coming in that don't speak any Spanish. We have a couple kids from the Bahamas, so they will take Spanish classes like me, but a lot of it is just a holistic development approach that is teaching them English, life skills, and doing everything we can to put them in a position where when they get to the States, they can flourish on and off the field.
Oh, that's great. So, all right, so I wanted to kind of maybe just have you dive into a little bit about how you guys are developing players. And again, maybe someone can take away, maybe a high school coach can take something away from this conversation. But first, before we get into that, I do want to just kind of point out, like, some players down there will sign for very large sums of money, right? So not only life-changing money for someone coming from, a third world country, but I mean, even life-changing money if they were born and raised here in the United States. I mean, we're talking a couple, $3-4 million some of these guys are signing for. And you guys have a plan for that player, but then you also have a very specific plan in terms of development of the player and the person for a player that signs for quite a bit less than that, right? So, I mean, you can sign, I just take like Jose Ramirez, for example, right? So Jose Ramirez, I think he's been runner-up or third place in the last however many years in a row for MVP behind Aaron Judge. And he signed for $50,000 out of the Dominican Republic, right? One of the best players in our game. He's going to end up in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But you guys do see players like that come through that aren't signing for a large sum of money, and they maybe have slipped through the cracks, or maybe they're underdeveloped physically by the time that they sign, but then they just go ahead and they just take off. And you guys aren't treating that player any differently than you're treating the player that signed for $3 or $4 million. So what is it about that player, and maybe you haven't come across that player yet, or maybe you have your thumb pegged on a guy that could potentially be that kind of player right now, or maybe you've seen it in another organization, that teams that you guys are playing against, maybe some a guy that signed for a lower dollar value that you can tell, like, oh, this guy's going to be an all-star in the big leagues. So what is it about players in general down there? And again, this can be related to any player. Doesn't have to be an international player, but what is it about those guys that you can see something in them that's going to go ahead and make them that player that, maybe something a scout missed along the way, and that's why he did sign for the lower dollar value?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway down there is just tools. I mean, you see kids that are so gifted with skill sets, and there's no doubt different signing bonuses between each player, but from my side as a coach, you want to treat every player like two things. Like, one, they're a family member, and two, that they're going to be a big leaguer. So you want to coach all the players the same. And fortunately for me, the last couple of years, when you see kids that get a self-identity and they become confident, and, if they're a lower money sign, you see them grow physically because they are young, and if they're motivated and hungry, their bodies change, and then they start learning basic fundamentals of the game. So we've been fortunate. We've had a few kids the last couple of years that were lower money signs that took off, and they had good years. And I think it all comes from the mind of the player. I mean, if it's confidence, belief in themselves. So if you're giving them the tools to learn the game, down there it's very basic fundamentals of how to play the game, and providing them with resources to just get after it every day in a structured environment. You never want to limit a kid, especially at that level and that age. You want to treat them all like they're going to be the ones that get to the big leagues. Yeah,
I love that, because again, you just never know what's inside that player, and then they can just kind of take off and surprise everybody along the way. And then once they establish themselves, I feel like there's no stopping that type of player. I just love stories like that. So Marty, okay, I want to get into a little bit about maybe some specifics. Like, okay, so you're working with the hitters primarily, and this, again, this can go. We can take this into the direction of just like the specifics of what you guys, the plans in place. And you don't have to give away any secrets by any means.
I gotta be careful of what I say here.
Yeah. No, but I guess maybe you can talk in generalities if you want. But if there is something that you could share, just like, okay, so I think the secret is out in terms of, players need to be hitters, right? So you're seeing these immense tools down there, and I remember scouting down there in the Dominican, and guys would, you just be wowed by some of the ability just to drive the ball out of the ballpark in batting practice, and we see that as well at the prep baseball showcases, right? So we see these guys, these players that just have the ability to drive the ball, and the exit velocities are crazy high, and then what you're really hoping for, that in the game that does translate into the ability to hit. So is there anything that you guys are looking for specifically with certain players? Let's say, you sign a guy, and my goodness, like, the ball is just rocketing off of his bat, right? And the exit velocities are over 110 miles per hour. And you're just like, wow, this kid has 60, 70, maybe future 80 pop. 80 raw power, but what do you look for and do you hope for in that type of player, just in terms of hitability? And when I say the secret's out, like, we watched the Blue Jays and we watched the Milwaukee Brewers this year, and the ability to put the ball in play, the ability to hit is kind of, it maybe is paramount at this point. You love to see the guys that are able to hit the 3-run home run, but if they have a slump for a month, they're going to kind of drag your lineup down as well. So maybe just dive into a little bit, if you can, on some of the specifics of what you're looking for with some of that stuff and the hittability.
I think every player has a different skill set, so immediately a lot of people think of the guys who have very raw power, and if a kid has swing and miss, maybe asking why he has swing and miss. Is it movement deficiencies? Is it path issues? Every guy, has specific things that they're working on that are going to go from guy to guy, whether it's more path, whether it's movement. I think as a whole, one thing that we can talk about it as a group is just teaching them the game of how to hit, situational hitting. Are you watching the game when you're not up and noticing if a pitcher is missing arm side, what's happening in the game? So I think down there, I would resort it back to more situational hitting, teaching them the game. Everybody loves home runs, but what I like, and I know a lot of other people like, are base hits with runners in scoring position. And did you prepare when your at bat comes out to have a clue with where you're going to get a fastball? Is he missing up? Is he missing down? How do I want to miss on a specific fastball shape? So I want to say it's less mechanical, and it's more like teaching them how to be a baseball player and how can I help my team win with good at bats that help the group more so than the player.
I love that answer, Marty, because you know what? Like, I think a lot of people are wondering in today's day and age of the game, what is the secret sauce to this thing? Like, the technology. I know that we've seen the technology really work and kind of elevate a lot of pitchers, right? Because they can shape the ball, they can really get into the nitty gritty with just how they can enhance their stuff, how they can, almost like a golfer, right? Because the ball's just sitting there as a golfer, and same thing as a pitcher. You have the ball in your hand. You can maybe perform some of these micro movements with your hand placement and how you're getting through your cutter to add a couple extra inches. But with hitting, you have to react, right? And so I love the fact that you answered that question with the idea, like, watch the game. I love that answer, because you know what, a lot of guys, and I think a lot of teams are going away from going ahead and looking at the iPad and making sure that your swing looked pretty on a home run swing, or where that pitch was. It's like, no, let's stay present within the context of the game and beat the other team and watch what they're doing and figure things out. And you kind of like are able to make adjustments just because of the fact that you're engulfed in the game on any given day and you're competing your tail off on any given day. And that's going to help you become a better player. I absolutely love that. I think Marty, that's going to really, the fact that you said that, a lot of players right now, I think, in today's day and age are kind of searching and trying to search for that secret sauce. And I think that what you're saying is this game can't be figured out on the hitting side for sure. Just in general, it can't be figured, but definitely on the hitting side, you just have to compete and try and survive another day until you, until you feel like, we all go through those moments where you feel like no one can get you out, but those are kind of fleeting. For sure, they were for me. But you try and survive and compete any given day. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if there's one thing I never want to do is I never want to give pitchers too much credit, because our job as hitters is to beat the pitchers, and they're human beings. They're going to miss. They're going to tip pitches, and baseball is a game of details. So if you are looking at the game from a one-dimensional approach and just kind of looking to live and die off the home runs, you're going to miss a lot of tips and secrets in the game by just being a baseball junkie and watching. You can go on and on. I mean, we could talk for hours about, how we're going to watch at a pitcher to see if he's tipping or if he's, where he's leaving his fastball, like we said. So if there's a message to younger players out there, it is to just, when you're not hitting and you're in the game, watch the pitcher, because he's going to give you secrets.
You just touched on something as well, Marty. Baseball junkie. I love that. I'm still a baseball junkie, and I'm 45 years old. Am I 45? Yeah, my goodness, I'm 45 years old, and I've been done playing since 2016, right? So, and I'm still just trying to consume every bit of baseball that I can. I'm lucky enough to be on the broadcast team for the Milwaukee Brewers now. So, and the scouting director for Prep Baseball Wisconsin. So I get my fill for sure. But again, it's just the fact that if you love the game, I think you'll figure out ways to become a better player. Would you agree with that? So baseball junkie, but then just to kind of simplify even that, even drill it down even more, is just to love to play, love every part of the game. And again, those are the players that typically, very rarely do you see a player. And I did come across a couple of guys that were that talented that made it to the big leagues that kind of didn't like baseball, believe it or not. But those guys are few and far between. And the guys that really love the game are the ones, and really love competing within the game, are the ones that become the best players.
No doubt. And if you're a young player or a parent listening to this, my message to you would be, it is so great to have dreams in baseball for your career. If you're a high school sophomore, to play in college, that's wonderful. That's like me and countless other baseball players. Love the game. The message would be to be present in the season at hand, look to dominate the season, be the best teammate as possible, because when you're on a team that is having fun and that is competing to win together, the biggest thing that you're going to ever take away from baseball is the friendships and the relationships. It's the best game in the world. You're going to make friends that will be a lifetime with you. But as you go on, what matters is the season at hand. And ask yourself, how can I be the best teammate? How can I work to my strengths lean into my strengths as much as possible, and be self-aware into the weaknesses that you got to work on, and keep loving the game. And it's a hard game, but it will reward you if you just commit and you love it every day and bust your tail. It will reward you.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice, and it goes a long way, I think, with players, especially with players from the state of Wisconsin, right? So we're both Team Cheese, right, Marty? And it's hard to be from a cold weather state, and this is kind of getting into my next question to you. Being from a cold weather state, it's tough, but there's also some advantages, and I've heard some people talk about this, and I think this rings true, especially for players from the state, is that, in the off season, basically from the end of the fall season until your spring season, that is the winter, right? It's cold, there's snow on the ground, you certainly cannot play outside, but there's opportunities to get better in one of those ways, and I think it's an advantage almost for players in the state of Wisconsin that are really hungry to get better, is the fact that that's the time where you can really get after it in the weight room, and you can really make some gains on the strength side of things. I know that's what I did. It's a resetting period in the off season, but it's also a time where you can, like I said, make a lot of gains on the strength side. It got me ready for the season every single year, and I felt like I was a little bit better prepared just because of the work that I was able to do in the off season in the weight room. I was a lot better prepared than some players that were maybe from, California, Texas, whatever, Florida. And I know people might be thinking, well, what does that have to do with being from a cold weather state? Maybe those players were just a little bit lazier. I just think it fuels you that, my goodness, I am from Wisconsin. It is freezing here, and I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to get better and to gain some strength. Now, with that said, do you guys, how do you guys handle that part of things down there at the complex, right? So that is obviously a very, very important part of the development for a lot of the players, for every player, but certainly for players that are 14 to 18 years old. How do you handle that? Maybe you can give some insight and someone can take something away from that, because again, it's the same demographic as the player in high school right now in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. One thing I will say on that, what you said though, is it is super impressive, the development that has come from through the Midwest now with bigger academies opening up, the last 10 years. In the past, maybe, you're limited to being able to hit in a cage, but obviously we know that just hitting in the cage, there's a lot more to baseball. And the best thing you can have in the game is, in my opinion, is a chip on your shoulder. So now, those cold weather guys, they have the opportunity to lift and also expand from just hitting in the cage to working on catching, throwing, base running, more like game skill specific stuff. You see kids that are coming out of the Midwest right now. It's impressive and extremely exciting for the Midwest. I mean, you look in pro ball right now, the numbers of guys that are from the Midwest that are not just getting into the minor leagues but working their way up. It's definitely cool and exciting, for us being from Wisconsin. It gives you a sense of pride. So I wanted to mention that. But going back to the weather down there, and we're obviously fortunate to have beautiful weather year-round. It's hot and sticky in the season, but, we make sure to manage workload of, how much they're throwing, how much they're running. Obviously we have so many resources now that monitor, how much movement guys are doing throughout the day. And in the weight room, they're extremely specific out how much whether they're just doing activation a day or heavy lifting. It's all calculated and based on just how guys' bodies are responding. So outside, we're very fortunate to have beautiful weather, but definitely there's workload management that goes into it.
Well, you guys are trying to definitely make gains, and you are monitoring and have plans in place for each guy specifically to kind of just make gains on the physicality side of things. Obviously, it's super important. So, Marty, I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, this has been awesome. I just think the takeaway here, and maybe you can kind of leave us with maybe a lasting thought for players here in the state of Wisconsin, coaches, parents. But I think the takeaway that I got was so refreshing to hear from you is despite all of the organization around a very complicated kind of system down there in the Dominican Republic, working for a major league organization in the Texas Rangers, and all the technology that goes into it. And I know that there's more specifics along the way, just in terms of how you guys have a developmental plan for each specific player. I love the fact that you said that this game is still about competing. It's still about paying attention within the game and loving the game and trying to I hate to use the word old school, because I don't think that quote unquote school is ever going to go away. But the focus on that is so refreshing to hear, because I know that there is an emphasis on, in my opinion, I think it's a blending of all that technology, but then also you still have to compete, play the game, and just find those little tiny lessons, little learning experiences within the context of each game is just so important for a player, because, again, you never stop learning. Been in the game. Personally, I've been in the game professionally since 2003. I literally learn at least 5 things every time I go to the ballpark, whether that's talking to somebody, listening to somebody, Pat Murphy, Charlie Green, Chris Hook, Jim Henderson, someone like that, or even a broadcaster. Like, you can learn something about the game of baseball every time that you go to the ballpark. I still haven't stopped learning. I know that you're in that same boat. It's because we love the game. But maybe I love that that's what came out of this conversation for me, and maybe kind of highlight one, takeaway, or maybe just reiterate that same point, Marty, as we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, I think all younger players, younger parents that are involved with baseball, the message would be, first, have fun. Lead into the season at hand. Compete, have fun competing. Ask yourself, what can I do today to help the team win? How you do that is when you're playing in the game, what is the game asking me to do? Is the game asking me right now to hit a ground ball that moves a runner over? Is the game asking me to stay off a pitch down because this guy's sinker is exploding and he's getting outs? learn, have fun, be a good teammate, make friends, and it's the best game on earth. So enjoy it every day and keep working.
I love it. Marty. I can't thank you enough for coming on the Badger State podcast. No better guy to do it than a guy that is making his way from Wisconsin all the way. And again, I do think at some point, Marty, you're going to keep climbing the rungs there and make it all the way to the big leagues at some point as a coach. And so I really appreciate you coming on. You're making an impact with players down in the Dominican right now for the Texas Rangers, and you're going to continue to do so just because, I know you love the game and I know you're passionate about helping players. So really appreciate you coming on, and thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you guys for having me and for all you guys do for baseball in Wisconsin, because what you guys are doing is incredible. It's, I'm down in the Dominican, but still, seeing what's on Twitter and what you guys are able to highlight and bring awareness to what's happening in the state is amazing, and it's super exciting to see how baseball just keeps advancing and progressing in Wisconsin. And Vinny, even for me to be able to grow up watching you be a big leaguer from Racine, you give guys hope to chase their dreams to get to the big leagues and whatnot. So I tip my cap to you always for that.
I appreciate it, Marty. All right, man. Good luck this season, and we'll end the podcast with our outro here. We're still workshopping it, but here we go. All right, go Team Cheese.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast. To keep tabs on our latest events, rankings, and coverage, subscribe or follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us over at PrepBaseballWI on X and at PrepBaseballReport.com/Wisconsin. Until next time.